The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Joanne Mercier. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Dom.
And Father Cory Sticha. Hi, Father Cory.
How's it going, Dom?
Very well, thanks. Folks, I want to tell you about another show on the network that you're sure to enjoy called PrayStation Portable. It's a little different from most of our shows. This is a prayer podcast, and kind of appropriate for today given our content. This was unplanned. It's a coincidence. But this is a podcast in which you will receive many episodes, several a day, of the daily office, the divine office, the liturgy of the hours. It's called many different things in the church's prayer, and it's been going on for 15 years now that we've had this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful way to take time during your day to say some prayers in union with the whole church. It's PrayStation Portable. You can find it wherever fine podcasts are found, or at sqpn.com/PSP. All right, so I want to start off first with a little bit of listener feedback from our recent episode on personal cloud storage.
Yes.
Let's see, I got a comment on Twitter from Yuda, who said, I haven't used every single one of those services, but I highly recommend against using Google Drive. I know for a fact that Google Drive censors files that violate their terms of service, which can be very questionable, to put it mildly, by blocking access to those files. So this is something that came out in, and thank you, Yuda, for your feedback. And this is something that came out in the news recently. And just a clarification, if your file violates Google's terms of service for whatever that is, whatever the violation is, it doesn't block your access to it. What it does is it prevents you from sharing it to other people. So
correct.
So you're not going to lose your files. What do you guys any feedback on that or any additional on that?
It's irritating they're doing this, but wasn't it that long ago that there was concern about Apple scanning your phone's files, not even your iCloud files, for certain images that we will not use? Say what they are.
Right. CSAM, I think they called it, but yeah, it. Yes, there was that, and Apple did back down from that. They're not actually doing it, but this is the part of the concern about using cloud services, storing your stuff in other people's drives, is they get to say whether you're allowed to put certain things there. And I mean, it's the price you pay for using the cloud in general. I think most cloud services will have terms of service that says you can't share or store and share out certain things on there, like nothing illegal and that sort of stuff. But Google, I remember this, Google's terms of service does seem to be a little bit harsher than others. So it's true.
These are similar concerns that you have with Facebook and other social media that you have with that you hear whenever someone runs afoul of one political group or another, and suddenly their website provider cancels them. And I mean, this is kind of going back to, there's always a joke in security world when it comes to computers. The only secure computer is one that is unplugged in a vault, locked away, with no one having access to it.
Well, and that's the funny thing. I've told the story several times. I knew someone who worked in the White House's IT. And they said the most highly secure computers are literally stored in a vault, and then when they need to use them, they take them out of the vault, out of the safe, and put them in this special chassis that connects to the keyboard and the monitor that is in a special room where no electromagnetic, it's like this huge, and that's it. That's how you make it secure.
Yeah.
Can't
And
use
the
it for
chassis is
much.
probably a Faraday cage, so you can't do the
Right.
I can't remember what they call it, but the electromagnetic interference. They can read that and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was pretty wild the way he described it. But so that actually brings up a story that I saw recently online, where people for whatever reason they had files in their Google Drive that would have a single number in it, probably generated like a log or something like that. And so this person had like this file that literally contained a single line with the number 1 on it, and got a notice: your file violates Google Drive's terms of service, and you can't share it.
Well, it's copyright. It's copyright against Sesame Street. One.
I was gonna say, what's the matter? There's not enough information in the file for them to read, so they're like,
right. Yeah, it was really weird.
I find Google Drives, and I use them for work. They don't have enough space. 15 gig is not enough space, and I don't feel like buying more. And I have Microsoft Office, so I have a terabyte in OneDrive. I end up using that more often. I mean, the Google Drives have their use for me in some cases, but I don't know. Google just plays with so many things, and they have something that's great, and then all of a sudden they trash it.
Right.
So,
we'll be talking about that later too. So hold that thought.
Hold that thought. But see, that's one of the reasons why I don't like Google products half the time, because I never know if they're going to be here next week.
Yes, feed reader,
Hangouts.
Yeah, Google Reader, Google Hangouts.
Again, hold that thought.
We'll be coming back to this theme very soon. But in general, so there's some weird stuff that happens with Google Drive, and it's not my first choice, Judith. But luckily there are a lot of other options that are out there. All right, so let's move on to our main topic, which is this is a story out of BuzzFeed, which I don't often go to BuzzFeed, but it's not all listicles anymore. But they actually have some pretty good, interesting tech journalism. And there's this one reporter, Emily Baker White. I think if she's the one I'm thinking of, she was the one who's done a bunch of Catholic reporting at BuzzFeed, like early. If she's the one I'm thinking of, but she was this young Catholic who posted a lot of the Pope Francis memes in the early days of his pontificate, on Twitter and stuff like that. So this would be in her wheelhouse. But the story is, what's really important is the story. So the headline is "Nothing Sacred. These apps reserve the right to sell your prayers," which is a bit of a clickbait, but it's BuzzFeed.
It is.
But the point is that there are a number of prayer apps out there now. Called a popular one that is mostly popular, mainly popular among a Protestant, but it's not specific to any particular denomination. But it's called Pray.com. There's another one called Glorify, and then there's a Catholic one called Hallow, HALLOW, and they're all very popular, very big. In fact, Hallow is really interesting because it's the first Catholic tech product that I know of that really has gotten big backing from Silicon Valley venture capitalists. They've really gotten millions of dollars, tens of millions, from people, including Peter Thiel, who is a very big venture capitalist, one of the co-founders of PayPal, if I remember. Or
Facebook as well. He was also involved in Facebook.
Okay. Yeah. And so these apps are big. They're very popular. They have, if you haven't used them, they often have places where you can post prayer intentions. You can be guided prayer, but they also have like a social aspect as well. People can interact. They're often you have videos like Hallow has had. Actually, Jimmy Akin has done some stuff for Hallow recently. Jimmy, who does Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World and some other podcasts on the network. So there's a lot of prayer, religion, faith, as listeners to this podcast can attest, is very important to us. It's very personal, and it turns out that a lot of these apps are collecting data on their users, and their terms of service allow them to use it in various ways, including sell it to third parties. So to be clear, most of this article focuses on Pray.com and its policies, its actions. Hallow and Glorify are mentioned because their privacy policies allow them to share user data with business partners and government and private entities where it deems necessary. But Hallow, for one, says it has not done that. But it could.
Right. And in fact, this author has a update on her Twitter feed where she says that Hallow is actually working on revising theirs to remove that and see.
Oh, excellent.
She says, I'm generally excited to see what changes they make.
Good.
And, it's a concern, obviously, and of course, the question comes in, and you mentioned, Don, about how Hallow received that very large chunk of money from venture capitalists. And of course, they're going to want their money back.
Right.
They don't give that money away because they're feeling charitable. And I don't know. It's kind of almost surprising that it took someone this long to kind of make the connections that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. This whole thing makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Because people are honestly trying, especially during the pandemic, to reach out to others and form some type of a community and pray together. And they're being preyed upon, with the E.
Good pun.
Okay.
Yep. Right.
No, seriously, because people think that it's a good idea to put their deepest, darkest prayer requests online, which, number one, I would say, please don't do that. But they're doing it, and now advertisers are going to find out things about cancer and other kinds of maladies, and they're going to start putting up ads for them. I just think it's so insensitive. It's just so morally wrong.
Or people will reveal things about their struggles with being faith, with sin, and have that monetized by somebody. There was an app a few years ago, a confession app that allowed you to kind of do an examination of conscience before going into confession, and you checked off all your sins, and then it tabulated them for you and gave you the form, and so you could just read it right off the screen as in the confessional.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'll use this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to download it, put my phone in airplane mode, fill it out, use it, delete the app, and then turn off airplane mode, because I do not want, I don't want my, that data being harvested by somebody.
And I think that particular app, the one that you're talking about, it was safe. It doesn't store to cloud. It doesn't, upload anything. It does not use your network connection for anything.
Right.
So, I mean, it stores it all locally.
Right.
Now, your phone is I'm sure most people are aware that are listening, both Apple and Android do back up your phone to the cloud, which means that data does get backed up to the cloud for Apple or Google, but that's a whole nother story. That's not the app doing it.
And usually once a day. It's like in the morning or at night. So if you delete it, or you clear it out, it should be fine.
Right.
I felt totally comfortable with that app. I did. I researched it before I used it. I shocked maybe more than one priest when I took it into the confession, because they were like, "Excuse me, your phone." I'm like, "Yeah, look at the app." Okay.
Yeah.
But then I realized these guys are just not comfortable with it.
Right.
So I said, you know what? Forget it. It's good. It's good
until
I get in there.
I've had parishioners do that, and I'm cool.
Yeah,
that's great.
You're
glad
one in a million.
Well, he is on a tech podcast, so
I'm on a tech podcast. Let's be honest. I'm probably younger than most of the priests you probably went to.
Oh yes.
So
I was going to read this quote from the article by a venture capitalist who talking about these prayer apps, who says of the opportunity here, a holy trinity is in place. Isolated people hungry for attachment, religions desperate for growth in an online world, and technology investors searching for the consumer niches that are yet to digitize. And that's the thing. And that doesn't sound nice. I'm sorry. No. We have desperate people here and here, and so let's take advantage of that desperation. And I get it doesn't have to be nefarious. Like, these people need something and these people need something, and we can give them what they need. And that in and of itself is not bad, but there are a lot of bad people out there who are willing to do bad things. So
society will take advantage of.
Right.
And that's the whole thing. And yes, religions, organized religions, are looking for a way to use the online niche as part of their evangelization. I know it's one of the things I'm doing. And it's very hard to find something that you can actually use that doesn't get compromised, in some way, shape, or form into another, and then turn your people off. Zoom is starting to turn people off in my world.
Right.
Because they don't want to do Zoom anymore.
They're burned out on
safe. Yeah, even though it's safe, still safer right now to do it. I'm having a meeting tomorrow night in-house, in person, because we're all sick of Zoom.
Right.
And even when it's not, what am I trying to say? Even when it's not nefarious action, sometimes it's incompetence, which is that the poorly programmed apps is what I'm trying to think of. Like, so they've got all of this data, and say they're not going to, give it away to, or sell it, but they store it in the cloud, in the clear, that anyone can find. And they give an example of that in the article of some user data that is accessible. And it's like, that's like, so like if my diocese or my parish had hired a programmer to program an app, I'm still going to feel a little awkward because how well did they program it? Do they have the systems in place to make sure that it's secure? That's where security research and security researchers are so important. You need people to be digging into these things, to do audits of these. In fact, they talk about someone who did a security audit on the Pray.com app, and which is how they found out the problems. This is important stuff. And like, I never knew, the article tells us, that BibleGateway.com is owned by Rupert Murdoch and News Corp. I'm like,
Jeez.
I just thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I just thought it was some, Protestant guy who really loved the Bible who set up a website. But no, it's News Corp. And they use the data.
Anytime you do a Bible search on any of the search engines, it's always the first option.
Yes,
that's true.
It's always the first option.
So it's one of the oldest. It's websites with the Bible. Oldest. It's out there. It's been out there. So its SEO is great. It's like IMDb. It was the place to look up information about movies and TV shows. So Amazon bought it, and so News Corp sees a option, a great option there, and bought it up. A Bible Gateway. I'm not saying I wouldn't use it. I'm still going to use it. It's still a useful way to look up a Bible verse quickly. But does it bother me that News Corp knows that I've looked up a Bible verse? Not particularly.
No. Depends on the Bible verse,
I suppose.
I am going to say, however, that the article's a little bit misleading on this because I just did some real quick research. Bible Gateway was like kind of a guy's basement project for a while. Was bought by HarperCollins Christian. Of course, HarperCollins, big mega corp publisher.
Yes.
HarperCollins is owned by News Corp.
Okay.
So it's not like News Corp went out and bought Bible Gateway. Right. It came with the Christian group, or they bought the Christian group and the Christian group bought Bible Gateway. So just get that out there as kind of a disclaimer of the article is they're kind of missing a step in explaining how News Corp owns it.
But the one thing that's still true is that News Corp has something called News IQ, which tracks users across all of its various online places. And thus, if you use Bible Gateway and go to any other News Corp owned within the News Corp umbrella, it will track you across those and match up the information from all of that usage to create a dark profile or shadow profile of you.
Where on earth would they have gotten that idea, Facebook?
Well, they're all doing it. That's the thing.
I know.
Now, there's one guy quoted in the article at the end. Marcus, a Bible Gateway user who teaches tech to a high school student, said he doesn't want to be the product for any company. And I'm sorry, Marcus, but it's one of the oldest truisms in the book is if you're not paying for it, you're not the customer, you're the product. I mean, so if you're using something for free, then you don't have a right. Like, I don't think you have a right to expect that you are not having your information collected. Now, you may have a right to an expectation to not have it used in various ways, but you have to assume it's being collected. So if you don't like that, go to Logos and buy their product, or Verbum, which, they have inexpensive products, and they've sponsored this podcast in the past. So it's in the interest of full disclosure, but their products are not free, and they are worth the money you pay for it, but they do cost. Some of their products cost a lot of money because they give you a lot.
A lot of money, yeah.
But you know.
I've had Verbum for years now. That's why I'm not on Bible Gateway anymore.
Right.
Because I have that product. But still, what bothers me with this whole thing, and I guess I don't think we Catholic or Christians corner the market on naivete, but we have a lot of people using sites like this who probably this is one of their few contacts with the internet. Yeah. And they're not savvy. And they're, they could be giving more information out than they should be.
That's a big thing. Is we need to educate people about how much you've got to be savvy. You've got to be careful about what you say anywhere online. There are no places once you're online. There are no places where you can safely assume that what you do or say there could never get out. I mean, it's a fact. If you use the internet, you're spraying information out there, and it can be someone could find it and see it. Now, some information I don't care. I don't care if someone knows that I buy English muffins at Market Basket on Instacart. It's like that doesn't bother me. But it would bother me if someone was stealing the information on my confession. If I was storing that, like I was saying before, or if I was trying to have a conversation about personal prayer, faith-related struggles in a chat room on Hallow, or I don't know if they have that. To be honest, I used Hallow once. I downloaded it, looked at it, and haven't used it really. I don't have anything against it, but it's just not something I got into. But if I don't want that sort of stuff to be out there either, so. I think the big lesson is the big lesson of the last 5 or 10 years, whether it's Facebook and Twitter or Hallow and Pray.com, we need to be savvier when using these tools. We have to be our own guardians of our privacy and our liberty. I mean, not to be too dramatic about it, but
yeah. Well, it's interesting that for a long time, the promise of the internet, and I remember when this was a real promise of the internet, was easy communication, easy access to information, easy, everything's out there and it's so easy to get at and you don't have to think about it and you don't have to worry about it. And that was before Facebook was a thing and Twitter was a thing and all these, there was no one worried about privacy, because if you didn't want it out there on the internet, you just didn't put it out there on the internet. Right. It's that simple.
Right.
Because no one was harvesting it, and stuff like that. Well, that's changed, and that's changed dramatically with the social media, with these megacorp conglomerates that are, buying up all this data. The fact that all this data is so easily stored and consolidated, and even if the data doesn't matched, it doesn't have your name, but they can still build a profile on you. And that's one thing the movie The Social Dilemma talks about so clearly is even if they don't have your complete data, they can still build a very accurate picture of you based off things like this.
Right.
And see, social media, for as much as it's something that was supposed to build community, has pretty much given the license to people to say whatever they want, how appropriate or inappropriate as it is. And people live on social media. So their life is not complete unless they're looking for likes, unless they're looking for attention, and unless they're analyzing every single tweet that comes out of Tom Brady. I mean, well, look, you can say what happened this week with his retirement. He didn't mention the Patriots, and now a whole Patriot nation is up in arms.
Well,
he
retired this week? I missed that.
You missed that, huh? It was in the middle of the blizzard. They're calling it the Tom Brady blizzard. No, but it's just that it's given people permission to think that it's okay to say everything or put anything out there and not understand that there are repercussions. This is how cancel culture got started.
I'm very careful about what I say online. I censor myself all day long.
Me too.
I've been putting stuff online for 35 years, probably longer, 40 years now. And 20 years ago, I started a Catholic blog, and I got pretty well known for it, and it was out there, and I opined on everything out there. But about, say, 14 years ago, I dramatically cut back on the sorts of things I would say in public, and maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years, 7 years ago, I guess, even more so. I'm much more reticent to be vocal about controversial things because it isn't worth it to, what's the point? Like, why? So I got my opinion out there. There's a billion of them, and the only thing that can happen is bad, frankly, at this point.
Yeah.
So, I talk to my wife until she tunes me out, and that's about it.
Well, and there's a blogger and a Catholic apologist who sadly has gone kind of off the deep end, in my opinion. But one of his taglines on his blog was that no thought of his should ever go unheard again.
Right.
And it's like, that is the worst approach.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thoughts that we have that we should immediately go, why did I think that?
Yeah. I used to say I started a blog to so that I would stop yelling at my TV.
Yeah. But it is a mindset that's not out there. And, and one thing I'm thinking about all this is we're talking about these dedicated prayer sites and these dedicated spirituality sites. Facebook has prayer requests now.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And
I've heard about that.
Would actually think that's a good idea? Well, apparently someone, because they added it looking probably at sites like these and went, this sounds like a great idea because people will give us more information.
It's a niche we can exploit, just like that venture capital said. Now, I've put prayer requests on Facebook to my friends.
Me too.
Absolutely.
But I wouldn't use a prayer request feature because that just is it's Facebook. It just sounds creepy. It's just like, no. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I run the page for my collaborative. I'm very careful what goes on there. Because I've had to, in other collaboratives in other parishes, I've had to stop the wars.
Right.
Between people saying you can't say that to other people. It's like, I don't want Facebook involved in prayer at all. Right.
Right. So I think there's a quote I want to sort of wrap up with here. And something I want to say about StarQuest and our use of data, but there was a quote that said, experts worry that the profit motive underlying engagement tactics ripped right from social media's playbook can distort the religious experience and make religious apps susceptible to the problems that plague social media platforms, including filter bubbles, political division, and privacy violations. That goes right to what you were just saying, Joanne, about your parishes and collaboratives Facebook pages. We don't want all of that junk from social media it's in the rest of social media to fill up our prayer spaces, and it already started to. I mean,
it's already there.
Catholic Twitter, Catholic Facebook is often full of this sort of stuff. We need to push back and push it out of the space.
Yep.
Yeah. And what I wanted to say about SQPN is SQPN does not collect or sell data about its listeners or website users or social media users. We will never sell your data. We will never, we've had people look to buy our mailing lists and stuff like that. That is a personal principle of mine, that we will not do that. We will not, I don't want to violate that trust with people for StarQuest. So that's not going to happen. And we don't, we collect, data about downloads and that sort of stuff. But we only use it internally to look at how we're doing, because we don't have a whole lot of other analytics to help us figure out how we're doing.
And it's highly anonymized. We have no idea who it is that actually downloads.
Right.
We can't see that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and of course, if you go to PlayStation Portable, as Dom promoted at the beginning of the podcast, we don't know who you are that's using it.
Right. You can
We're
download
just glad
that.
you're using it. We're just glad you're using it.
Pray all those prayers all you want, and we'll never know you did. We just know
it should be
that every month about 150,000 of you download the prayers in total over 150,000 over the whole month. The prayers for PlayStation Portable, and that's it. So go pray that way.
That's a good
awesome.
thing.
That's a good thing.
And that's a good thing.
Yep. Awesome. All right. So before we move on to our next set of topics, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology. And we also know who our patrons are, but we only reveal your first name and last initial unless you tell us not to. But we want to thank this week Eric D, Caitlin F, Ann R, Matthew D, and Gregory F. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Yeah, I want to add that we do actually have had people say, I want to stay anonymous. Don't even read my name in initial, and we honor that. So, but we do want to show that we're grateful as well. All right, let's move on to some headlines. This was the one that Father Cory was hinting at earlier.
Yep.
The headline is, after ruining Android messaging, Google says iMessage is too powerful. Wow, Ars Technica, how do you feel about this?
Well, and I have to be, I'm very clearly the Android fanboy of the bunch.
Yes.
But yeah, Google, you don't have any room to talk.
Yeah, Google Plus.
And, because they've had Google Plus, they've had Hangouts, which Meet is a derivative of that.
Yes.
I mean, they took it and they rebadged it Meet. They have Google Voice, which they've done almost nothing with. They've had many other options. I mean, the built-in Google messaging app, the standard SMS app, it works. It works fine. There's a way to do it where you can read it online through your phone. But Google, if you're really worried about iMessage, how about you spend some of those trillions of dollars you have and make a competitor to it that wipes it off the face of the earth?
Well, they've Google Duo, Meet. They've had multiple Google Buzz. They've had multiple messaging services at the same time. All right, so let's back up and go to the where this all comes from. The Wall Street Journal had an article at the beginning of January talking about how Apple has created a walled garden. Sure, why not? Among U.S. teens. The iPhone is, I think, 80-something% of teens own iPhones. And they say part of that is social pressure to not be a green bubble. Because if you have a iPhone or a Google phone, on an iPhone, everyone who's an iPhone user shows up in the messages as a blue bubble. Everyone who has a non-Apple phone, Google, Android phone, obviously, 99% of them shows up as a green bubble. So, the regular SMS. And you don't want to be a green bubble person. In fact, Jack Barazini was just telling me he switched a few months ago from an iPhone to an Android phone. And he just told me the other day he switched back because his family pressured him to not be the green bubble in the family. Like, they didn't want to message him.
Google's right. Google's right.
But the main reason is for a lot of people is that you don't get all the features. Like, there are all these cool, awesome features that you can get with in an iMessage thread that you can't do when it's mixed. And so Google's answer is, Apple should start using RCS, which is a newer texting standard. So the original was SMS, short messaging system. And now this RCS, Rich Communication Services. But this isn't a new standard. This is from 2008, so it's 14 years old. And it has a few features, like it'll show the three bubbles to show that the other person on the other side is typing. That's the thing you only get from when you're within your own messaging system, and that sort of stuff. But it also lacks things like, end-to-end encryption. That would be kind of nice, or messaging on non-phone devices like an iPad or a PC or something like that. So it lacks some stuff. And as Ars Technica points out in its headline, Google, when it comes to messaging systems, Google doesn't really have a leg to stand on to criticize others, frankly, as we were mentioning.
Well, I'll be honest. When you mentioned the three dots to show that someone's was typing.
Yeah.
That actually makes all the argument not to use iMessage. I hate that. It drives me up the wall. Because, someone types one letter and then they stop and it just sits there and
it still keeps going.
Because you use Facebook Messenger, which I do use for some people, and it'll do that. So-and-so is typing, spin. So
you're just waiting for them to send a message instead of going on the rest with your day.
Especially when you just sent them a message that, are they going to be upset about what I just said?
There was a TV show recently, and I can't remember what it was, but it used that so effectively as part of the drama of the show, where they send a very dramatic message to someone, and then you get the three bubbles pop up, and the person's sitting there waiting, and then it goes away, and it really conveyed what the action of what was going on without using any words. It was actually really effective. I have to say that. It was really good. I can't remember what it was.
My problem is that I do have friends who are not in the walled garden experience.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm on a group text with them and I'm on my iPad sometimes, it doesn't go through.
Yeah.
I'm trying to text people, and now I'm the iPhone person, and I'm frustrated with the fact that I'm trying to participate in this group text, and half the time my stuff isn't getting through to the green bubble people.
Yeah.
You know, I can text the blue bubble people without a problem. They're getting my stuff, but the green bubble people aren't. It drives me to other things like WhatsApp or, you know, because
I'll be honest, and that's one where Apple needs to fix that problem.
Well, I think
They
Apple
figure out
does.
some way that it can, you know, and that's because it's either they make it so that I, as an Android user, can use iMessage or an iMessage compatible app,
right?
Or they make it so that, you know, if they're going to promise messaging from your phone, your tablet, your PC, your Mac, they need to make it all the way.
But see, their biggest argument that the pundits have talked about over and over again is the fact if they give iMessage away to Android users, it won't compel people to buy the phones. I don't care who wants to buy what phone.
Yeah.
I just want to talk to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like people try to dismiss this as, you know, Apple is just trying to get people to buy their phones by keeping messages just for Apple devices. And I say, well, yeah. I mean,
of course they are.
Isn't that the point of creating of creating features of your particular phone and your particular operating system to get people to buy it? I mean, yeah. So and it's not like there aren't other message services like Joanne. You mentioned that in WhatsApp. If you live outside the U.S., you're probably using WhatsApp already and letting Facebook have all your information. But you know, or you could use Signal or Telegram or whatever. I mean, you could use other services, but it's convenient. You know, the messaging services are convenient. And, you know, and Apple says we can dumb it down and make it so that it works for everybody equally, or we could give extra features to iPhone users. I mean, I don't have a problem with the walled garden because I live inside the walled garden, and things are great in here, and everyone should join us.
I feel that way, Dom, but I also feel that I'm the one who chooses to live in a walled garden.
Right, I get it.
So if I want to communicate with people outside of the walled garden, I shouldn't have to jump through hoops. Right. My stuff shouldn't have to break.
I do find the fact that I can't send messages from my iPad or my Mac sometimes to people because it implies the Messages app implies that I can. That's the problem. It doesn't come up and say, oh, you can't send messages to green bubble people from your Mac or from your iPad. It implies that I can, and then when it doesn't, I get frustrated. And I'm a tech guy. I know this stuff. I can imagine how frustrating it is for non-tech people. So I agree there. Apple has to do better with that.
And that's one thing, actually, I will give Google props for. A few years ago, they set up Messages for Web. And it's a way that you link your phone with a Google website, and you can do all your texting as long as you've got an active connection to your phone. You can do all your texting from your computer. So I can sit here at my browser and text. Now, if my phone goes offline, if I turn it off, it doesn't work. But it solves that problem that you're having with the iPad, because that would be, frankly, it'd be trivial for Apple to say, okay, if this is including an SMS user, route it through the phone. Yes,
I think that should definitely be the way it does it. Is it should route it through the phone,
and that way they're not giving away iMessage. They're not, they're not getting rid of their advantages. It's making sure though the message is getting to everyone, because that can be a legitimate concern if it's not happening.
I believe that's how WhatsApp works. Is even if you use the Mac version of it, it routes it through the phone.
Interesting.
There is no iPad app, though, however, for WhatsApp, and that kills me because I really need to see something bigger than a 6-inch screen.
Yeah, this is Facebook. Come on, Facebook. All right, let's move on to our next headline. This one is interesting. There's actually two headlines here, and they're related. The first headline is felony charges are the first in a fatal crash involving autopilot. Now, this has to go. This is about a crash involving a Tesla in California. This is not about electric vehicles per se. This is about autonomous driving vehicles. And this guy who's a limousine driver was driving his Tesla with a passenger, and apparently it was on autopilot on the freeway, came off the freeway, ran a red light, hit a car, and killed the two people in the other car. And now he is being charged with felony vehicular manslaughter. This is the first time that the driver, let's say the pilot or the operator of the vehicle, of a vehicle that was autonomous at the time, or even partially autonomous, is being charged with the crime involved in the crash. There have been other people charged, like there was in Arizona, there was an Uber autonomous vehicle test car that hit a pedestrian and killed them, but there was a backup driver on board, and he got charged with a crime for failing to stop the car. But that was different because he was the backup driver. This is about people using an autonomous system as it was designed, and so in this case, what they're saying is the driver of a vehicle that's autonomous should be charged with the crime when the autonomous system fails to protect people. Okay, so that's one side. The other side of this is a report out of England or Britain, in which a law commission has said that that human drivers should not be legally accountable for road safety in autonomous cars, that the driver should be redefined as a user in charge with less legal responsibility if something goes wrong. And in fact, the company behind the driving system would be responsible rather than the driver. So what do you guys think? Who's at fault here? Who should be charged with the crime? We've approached this before.
Can we phone a friend, Captain Jeff of the Airline Pilot Guy show? Of course, Captain Jeff was involved with StarQuest quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
He would tell you that if a crash occurs on autopilot, the pilots are responsible for it.
In an airliner.
Correct.
Right, in an
In an airliner.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the same principle applies in a car. If you are the driver in charge, you are the one who holds the driver's license. You are sitting in the driver's seat. You are responsible for that vehicle, period. Even if it's an autonomous vehicle, even if it is, a Tesla with, the latest and greatest self-driving abilities, you are still responsible. That, for example, in the case of that limousine driver, the second that car started going off the exit ramp and not slowing down, he should have been hitting the brakes.
Exactly.
He should have been taking control over from the car.
Right.
And he didn't. He was responsible. So I disagree completely with UK. I think the UK is barking up the wrong tree here. They need to be looking at how autopilot is handled in the aviation world.
How about you, Joanne? What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with Father Cory.
Yeah.
Because you can't be sitting behind the wheel, even though you supposedly are not in control, and see something about to happen. That's like if somebody's going to jump off, somebody going to jump off a bridge, you're going to stand there and just watch them? No, it's your moral responsibility to stop the car.
Right.
If you know it's going to hit somebody or something, it's your moral responsibility. And the car can't be that much of a tank that you're not going to get hurt. So save yourself at the same time.
So what about in 20 years where let's say cars are truly autonomous? There's no steering wheel. There's no driver's seat. Everyone's a passenger. Still the person in the car responsible?
I don't see that happening in 20 years because there's still going to be a lot of non-autonomous vehicles on the road. Maybe in 100 years when all vehicles are autonomous.
Let's say when whatever this technology, when a car is fully autonomous with no driver's seat, no steering wheel, I think that would have to change, right? I mean, you can't hold responsible the person who can't control the car, right?
Well, and again, that's the
or do we not let that happen?
Get to that state.
Well, isn't somebody going to be in control? Like, for example, if we're staying in the aviation world, the folks up in the tower, they have some sort of control of where planes are going. If you're going to a completely autonomous system, wouldn't there have to be somebody watching all
artificial
of this
intelligence?
Stuff? Artificial intelligence. I'm never getting in one of those cars.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the cars could drive themselves and look out for the other cars. I mean, it's different from air travel where you need to, and maybe even in the future of air travel is like that too, where it doesn't need the tower. But
And they are working on the technology for cars where these autonomous vehicles will communicate with each other and keep themselves out of each other's way. But, and there are also technologies they're developing. They're trying to develop basically, like the interstate highway system we have now, but it's only for autonomous vehicles.
Right.
You cannot drive a traditionally driven car on one of those, and that something like that I think would be a little bit different, where if you are on a dedicated autonomous only lane or road and something happens, then yes, that's a glitch of the software. That's a problem with the manufacturer. But at least as things sit right now, and again, I honestly, I don't see in my lifetime completely autonomous vehicles with absolutely no human control whatsoever. I just don't.
I don't see people being comfortable with that. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I just don't see the technology getting to that point. Well, it's still pretty rough right now.
And we've talked about it before, but we still have the trolley problem, which is, how do you program the AI to decide what actions to take when there is a no-win situation, when you have a baby carriage on the left and 3 people standing on the right, and it has to choose which one to hit. I mean, for a human being to make that decision is terrible. How do you make that decision as an engineer programming the computer to make these decisions?
Right.
And I don't see that happening.
And there's been issues with Teslas in particular, because that's the most common autonomous, although there's other manufacturers who are doing the same thing, where it actually would choose, if it comes up on an accident scene unexpectedly, to hit the emergency vehicle, to hit the fire truck, to hit the ambulance.
Right.
Because by its logic, that was where least people was in the emergency vehicle, because hopefully they're dealing with the emergency.
Right.
And not in the vehicle.
Yeah. Never getting into one of these cars. Ever.
So I'd love to hear what people think. Just, let us know what you think about the autonomous vehicle problem and liability. That too. All right. So let's move on to an easier topic. Recycling. So there's an article from the Washington Post. The headline is "Recycling should be easier. These home appliance startups are trying to help." And basically, they point out the problem, which is that the open secret about recycling is that most things that are sent into the recycling stream are never recycled. They end up in the trash too, which is frustrating if you spend a lot of time, separating out your trash from your recyclables and that sort of thing. But these 2 companies have developed appliances, because that's what we need in our kitchens, is another big appliance, but appliances that will break down, clean, and separate the various recyclables, mostly plastics and glass. The 2 different appliances worked a little differently. One is mostly for soft plastics, by which I think they mean things like plastic bags and other stuff like that frankly most municipal recycling plants don't take. And the other one does the harder plastics and glass. And that one pressure washes them so that they're clean, then just tears them up into bits or breaks them into bits, and then stores them in separate bins. And then once it's full, it calls for a pickup, and then they send people to come and pick up the recyclables and deliver them. What do you think? Do you want to get a recycler appliance someday in your kitchen?
I don't know if I want it in my kitchen. My garage, maybe. But no, seriously, because something like that sounds like it would take up a heck of a lot of room.
Right.
So if it's in my garage next to my, next to my, the panel for my electric car, and everything else we're going to put in garages except the vehicles nowadays, I think it would be a good thing, because it is interesting, as one who does recycle, that every year they're changing what I can put in my blue bin. So I keep forgetting, like, oh yeah, last year I could put this in, but this year I can't. So like, if you have something that does it, to put it all in, and it will separate everything and it gets to the right place, fine and dandy, and let it reject something that goes in there that just in case you accidentally put it in there.
Yeah, that's one of the things they said about one of these products, is that it will examine and reject things that it can't recycle.
Yeah, because every year they change it around here. So
So when you look at the one that breaks down the glass and the plastic bottles, it's about the size of a front loading washer is kind of what it looks like to me. So yeah, it's a fairly decent sized piece of equipment. If you're thinking like a washing machine, I had to laugh at the other one that the article says that it aims to handle single-use plastic bags. And of course, my first thought was grocery bags, you know, the good old plastic grocery bags. And it's like, people have been recycling those for years. How many people's houses had the little sock where you stuff them in at the top and you pull them out the bottom to reuse them? Right. But of course, this is talking more about like your bag, your little plastic bag that like jerky comes in or something like that, or that your food is wrapped
Bread
in or
bags,
something like that.
That sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So admittedly, I live in an area where there is very, very little recycling. It's not even available, really. And I'd like to see more of it because there are a lot of things we use that should be recycled, metals especially, plastics to some extent, glass a little bit. Glass isn't quite so bad, but you know, it's something I would like to see more. And if these things help with that, great.
I recycle a lot of paper and cardboard, a lot of cardboard boxes. We get a lot of stuff from Amazon. It's just easier, I think, for a family like us we order a lot of stuff rather than go out and buy it at the store, because going to the store is a pain in the neck. But so I have a lot of cardboard, and I have so I have a 96-gallon trash bin and two 96-gallon recycling bins outside my house, like the big ones, and they get picked up every 2 weeks, and the trash bin usually gets filled. Although not as much as when we used to have kids in diapers. Thank God that's over. And then the recycling bins, I fill 1.5, say, usually. There are times when they're both full. So it would be nice to have a way to kind of do away with some of that. Now, as they point out in the article, the best way to do this is to eliminate the packaging in the first place, have less of it. But until manufacturers and shippers they need to do something about that from their end. But on our end, I don't know that I want another appliance, but it would sure be nice not to have to cart out a bin of recyclables every couple of days in the winter out to my bins outside. That is a thing I would like to get rid of. I'm waiting for the kids to get big enough to do that for me.
And unfortunately, we can't completely get rid of packaging though until we get Star Trek style replicators that just tea Earl Grey hot.
Yes.
Until that happens, we're always going to have plastic bottles. We're always going to have glass. We're always going to have.
We'll have some, just less of it. I think it would be nice to have less of it, to figure out ways to reduce it, to be more efficient with it. I think that would be a nice thing. All right, let's move on to, those are our headlines. So we'll move on to our picks of the week. And Father Cory, you're up first.
So for my pick, I'm going to admit one of my geekdoms. We obviously, if we're talking about secrets of tech, we're geeks. Well, one of my geekdoms is I still like trains.
Oh, yeah.
Every 3-year-old boy loves trains. I haven't grown out of it. I still enjoy when I see or hear a train go by. I still love hearing the horn. I still love all of it. I love riding the trains. I love riding Amtrak, especially long distance. Unfortunately, where I live now in Cascade, we have tracks that haven't seen a train in 30 years or more. So I don't get to hear them anymore. So a website that I really enjoy, and it's a website and a YouTube channel. It's live streaming rail fanning, live streaming trains. You sit and they literally have set up webcams, live streaming cams all over the country. And you can go all these different places. And, places like the Horseshoe Curve over in Pennsylvania, which is one of the most famous sections of track and absolutely beautiful up in the mountains of Pennsylvania. And you can go to California and the desert and Washington State and big cities. Like just on their website here, they've got Wichita, Kansas, right on the front of it. A major crossing in Kansas City, they've got a camera where it's like 3 layers of tracks, and they're all 3 major lines that come together. And so you can sit and watch it. But on their YouTube channel, not just do they have their streaming, and they have both live, free streaming and premium, where you pay so much a month to get access to it. But they also stream on the YouTube channel, and they'll do like daily or every other day snippet videos of interesting things. So sometimes there'll be like a let's say like a military tank train comes through, they'll snip that in. If there is a derailment in front of one of their cameras, they'll snip that in and stuff like that. And so if you don't want to sit and watch it live, you can watch kind of these little clip shows, I guess you could really call it.
Cool.
So if you like watching trains, if you know, and it's actually rather soothing to have on in the background too. Because a lot of times, you know, these tracks don't have trains going all the time, so you hear the background noise.
Yep. We'll talk about soothing. When my son was little, when he would wake up in the middle of the night, one of the ways that I calmed him down was YouTube videos of trains. He would immediately look at the thing and he would quiet down, and then I would hold him until he fell asleep watching the trains. There's other YouTube. This is great because but there are other YouTube channels I've watched where like there's a guy who just rides the rails and talks about the different kinds of Amtrak cars and how is this one versus that kind, and this is the new model and the old model, and I'm like, this is awesome in its geekery. Like I kind of like trains too. I'm not that deep into it like that guy was, but yeah, this is pretty cool. I like it. It's so awesome.
Yeah, if you like trains or you like just kind of the soothing background, and some of them, like I said, some of those places are just absolutely gorgeous.
Oh yeah, one of these days, I've always wanted to take a cross country rail trip. One of these days, I'm going to do that.
My nephew would love this.
Yeah.
He's into
you do it, Dom. You take the train from Boston to Chicago and the Chicago to Seattle, and I'll meet you in Montana.
Okay. I once looked into like going to visit my in-laws in Austin via train, and I've realized it takes as long as driving and costs as much as flying, so I may as well fly.
Exactly.
But there's nothing to substitute just riding the rails. Awesome. That's a good one. So Joanne, what's your pick this week?
It must be website week because my pick is called thestreamable.com. The Streamable is a website for those who have cut the cord and for those who want to cut the cord. It's a great resource. Right now I got hooked on it because I believe I heard it on the Tech Guy. Somebody talked about it on the Tech Guy, and because they talk about, you know, cutting the cord a lot, and I like to find out things like Netflix just went up again. So they have an article right now saying there are 7 cheaper options to stream TV and movies. The problem is Netflix has a lot of good stuff.
Right.
So how do you but I think it's good, it's good for somebody like me who's always looking to find out what's new out there, how the prices are working, and others who are thinking about doing this and what would it cost you and what is available, that kind of stuff. So especially like one that's very timely too, they have up right now is weather coverage online. And of course they say immediately, Weather Channel, the only place you can get the Weather Channel now is on Fubo, unless Fubo TV. It used to be on Friendly TV, and I think they dropped it. So now the only place you can get it is Fubo. And that I missed, figuring out during the blizzard where Jim Cantori was.
Yeah, he was by the aquarium in Boston, actually.
So that's why you guys got all that snow, because he was there.
Yep.
But I think this is a good place for people to, if they're looking to cut the cord, read all the information on here. This is a great place for that. If you've cut the cord, then keep up with something like this because it'll help you like stream the Olympics and.
Well, that's the other thing I noticed about this as I'm looking at it is one of the things you can do is you can enter in the name of a movie or a TV show or a sport, and it will tell you where you can watch it.
Exactly.
That happens to me all the time. I'm like, I want to watch this movie, but where can I watch it? And I'll sometimes I'll check, Amazon Prime, and then I'll check it here, and then I'll just give up and just buy it off of iTunes.
This is really good for that. But be careful. I mean, you've got to know the different places.
Yeah.
Something like an Amazon Prime, you'll get it without commercials. Something like a Tubi TV, expect a commercial every 5 minutes to be the same one.
Right.
So,
well, it is nice because it will tell you, like I just looked up Groundhog Day because as we record this, Groundhog Day, and it will tell me I can, it's not available on Disney Plus or Netflix, but it is on Amazon Prime Video. It's on Stars, Google Play, YouTube. You can stream it in these. You can buy or rent it here. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's a very good resource.
I like it. I'm gonna have to bookmark that.
Yeah. It was Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I was trying to figure out what streaming services have ESPN, and that's actually a real concern because Disney, and YouTube TV didn't have it, but Fubo did.
Right.
And so this would have been nice to have it where you could look on there and say, at this time, Disney is throwing a fit with YouTube, and so.
Right.
Yep. Excellent. So my pick of this week is also TV related, but mine is more hardware than website. So I had I have an Apple TV of not the most recent generation. It's not the 4K. It's the generation before that. It's the generation to do apps. So I don't have a 4K TV, so it doesn't matter. But they came out with the new Apple TV remotes, and those are much better than the old Apple TV remote.
Hallelujah.
So I ordered one immediately and got that I think it was last year when they introduced it. But it still suffers the problem of it's too sleek. It's just, it wants to slip out of my hand all the time and get lost. So I picked up on Amazon this silicone remote cover case. It also has a a holder. So what it does is, so the silicone cover, it's just like I said, it slips over the remote and covers the whole thing, and gives it a nice grippy feel. So you're not going to lose it. If you look at it on Amazon, I'll have the Amazon link, but if you look at it on Amazon, it doesn't show it, but it also comes with a loop. So like a wrist loop, so you can loop it around your wrist. So when you fall asleep watching TV, it doesn't fall on the couch cushions. It stays attached to your wrist when you wake up and you want to turn off the TV. And it has this adhesive backed holder that you can put. I've got it on the side of a bookcase near the TV, but you can put it, it says put on your headboard or on the back of the TV even, and it fits right in this holder, the remote, and it's always weird. One of the things complaints I hear about the Apple TV remote is it's always getting lost because it's so small. Well, if you put it away, it's not going to get lost, and that's what I do. I put it away whenever I'm done with it because I tend to lose things. So Apple needs to put the U1 chip in it so you can do the the AirTag thing with finding it. I don't know why they haven't done that yet. In any case, it's cheap. It's $13. Which it's. I suppose it could be seen as a little bit expensive for a cover for your remote control, but the aggravation it saves is well worth it, frankly.
I like the glow blue one.
I was going to say, you didn't get the glow-in-the-dark ones?
I got a black one because I'm boring and...
and what's this? They have one in the shape of an old phone?
Do they really? Oh,
like an old Nokia.
Look at that.
Oh, it looks like an old Nokia on the back. That would be confusing. That would be really confusing. But hey, if you're a phone fan, that would be fun. Yeah, but they have a glow-in-the-dark one, which if you lose your remote a lot, that's great. It'll glow in the dark when you're looking for it. Yeah, definitely check those out and see what you think of those. Awesome. All right, that should do it for us for this time. We would love to hear what you think of anything we've talked about in our discussion. You can comment on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. You'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes on sqpn.com. Be sure to follow Secrets of Tech in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, in your favorite podcast app, or at the SQPN YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. And when you're there, be sure to hit the bell to get notifications. Until next time.
And by the way, Dom, you forgot to mention happy 150th episode.
That's right. Oh, that's right. I totally missed that. This is our 150th episode and our third anniversary, somewhere around here.
Yeah,
we started in January 3 years ago. So with the two of you, I think you were the first.
Yes,
it was us. Yeah,
that's right. This is we bring the gang back together again for our 150th. So, yes, congratulations on reaching this milestone, and we have many more shows to do. So, until next time, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thank you, Dom.
And Joanne Mercier, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.